A very good morning to you and welcome to Captured by Women. My name is Abna Tebi and I'm here with my co-presenters Priscilla, Susan and Nanama. As usual, we'll be weighing in on some topical issues making the headlines during the week. This week, what are we looking at? Quickly, we will be looking at developments in the Ghana Police Service. And here we are looking at two things. One is the dismissal of COP Patrick Timbilla following investigations into some recruitment scandal that rocked the service sometime in 2014. We'll also look at the retirement of Mr. John Kudalo as IGP and his replacement with COP Asante Apietu. How is the Ghana Police Service going to look like with the leadership of Mr. Asante Apietu? We'll also look at the vetting process so far, ministerial nominees being vetted by the vetting committee of Parliament. How has the committee itself done and how have the nominees fared so far in the process? We'll be looking at all these issues. And then lastly, we'll look at the rating of members of Parliament of the 6th Parliament of the 4th Republic. A report that has been put out shows that some parliamentarians didn't do so well, others did well. We'll be looking at these issues as they have been reported in the media. So this is what we have lined up for discussion this morning. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back to look at the topics in detail. But let's say thank you to our sponsors, Grand Rice Company, producers of Leap Tomato Paste, and Tinatet Herbal, producers of Tinatet Tomac Mixture and Venicare. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. On Spin this morning, we are looking at the dismissal of COP Patrick Timbilla, the former Director of Human Resource at the Ghana Police Service. Now, you do remember that sometime in 2014, some scandal involving recruitment of police personnel to the service rocked the Ghana Police Service, and Patrick Timbilla was interdicted. And subsequently, investigations were launched into the alleged recruitment scam. This week, we hear that Patrick Timbilla has been dismissed. Now, questions have come up as to why it took so long for COP Patrick Timbilla to be dismissed, given that some other people who were also implicated in this scandal had been dismissed way before this year. And these are raising questions about why it seems we seem to go easy on certain people in high offices in the land or on the land. So ladies, this is what we're looking at. COP Timbilla, after how many years now? Is it 3 years? Since 2014, eventually the Ghana Police Service is telling us that the investigations have come to an end and they are now dismissing him. Obviously, they found some adverse findings against him. And questions are up. Why did it take so long?
Well, they say the wheels of justice grind slowly, so I guess we should be lucky if they've grinded at all. I think that generally, there are many investigations that take place that we never even see the light of day. And so for this one to come out now, that something has been done. I think that the police tend to shield their own, and you've alluded to that, okay, maybe because he's such a big person, it took so long. I guess, yes, if the person is that big, you would be a lot more cautious in ensuring that you don't easily harm their reputation, because it may not necessarily even be the loss of revenue or the loss of money, but more of a loss of reputation. So, I think that in some of these things, you would tread much more cautiously if the person is the, how would I put it, a supposed big man.
So then we are making distinctions between...
No, we are not making distinctions. We are saying the realities of life, okay? That, I mean, that's the reality in life. I mean, if somebody were to steal a goat, you'll be hauled in front of the court, and then in the next minute, he'll be sentenced to his... of course, and I mean, that doesn't require as much investigation as it would something like this, you know. And you know, you'd also find out that, you know, for somebody who has been in the service for so long, he may have his own loyalists there who may not necessarily let things move as fast as they are. But the important thing is that we've come to this conclusion, and that I think the service believes that, you know, he didn't do the right thing, and as such he's been dismissed. Or I think we talked about whether if you've been dismissed, whether he will get his pension. He'll probably lose all of that, but more likely it will be you know, a loss of reputation than more of a loss of revenue.
Right. I mean, the time factor, well, people may be concerned, but I am looking at due process, and the question, like you're saying, whether or not due process was followed. And to the extent that it was followed, then yes, it may take 10 years or whatever, but then finally a decision is made after complying with all the processes or procedure that the police service has developed within its own service. So at the end of the day, it's about due process. And so the time really for me is not an issue. But what I wouldn't want to be the case is that, yes, because he is maybe of a certain standing in there, then we needed to perhaps modify the process to suit, you know, whereas for others, then it becomes an animal farm thing. Exactly. I know there's a reality on the ground, but we should also be aware that everybody is equal under the law. Nobody is above the law. Yeah.
I mean, Abi, when it comes to his ranking and his status in the police force, I'm thinking that's why caution was necessary, because for someone to have risen the ranks and we didn't detect any issue of fraudulent behavior, you know, he's passed through the various ranks. So of course, to, you know, indict someone of his person, you know, status, his character, then it means that, you know, you need to take, you know,
extra
take time and, you know, take extra care, because what did they miss? All this while he has been in the police force, is this now that he's going to do something? Has he done something in the past? For, you know, he has a very clean record, and so it makes it all the more dumbfounding that, you know, he's stained with this, you know, this scandal.
It's I mean, two ways. It's difficult. We appreciate what the police has gone through to finally come out with this finding or finally firing him. But for me, like, I mean, it came up in all our discussions that what then really distinguishes the processes that are tailored for someone who is an ordinary person, as it may seem, against someone who has a status. Because let's get the facts straight. For someone who even steals a goat, as Susan was earlier on alleging to, it's still going to, you know,
it's the same procedure.
His reputation is going to be harmed somewhere, even if he's a non-entity, even in his family. I mean, it's going to be a reputation to the whole family. Someone will be affected either ways, you know. So I feel that if immediately you could give a verdict on those other people, and 2 years down the line before this man receives his verdict, you don't know what within these 2 years these other people have had to go through. I just feel that we should cut down whatever the status is. If you've done something wrong, let equal merits be given to all of us. Let's settle it as soon as possible, because in those few years that we were wasting, I feel we wasted his time as well. Because then if he's home, I mean, he's not part of the service, but you're waiting to pass a ruling on him as well.
What went
in there? We don't know his arguments.
This is just one of these issues, but oftentimes we know of cases where once an MP or once a politician or once someone of high standing is involved, we turn to immediately, we take a slower process. So I'm just saying that moving forward, we're all Ghanaians. Whatever it is, the baseline is that we're all under the law. So maybe these processes should be tailored, yes, to suit your reputation or whatsoever, but it should be hastened so that everyone receives their punishment in due time. I don't see why 2 years before he gets whatever. I agree. Someone will say because he was home and he wasn't really working as a police officer, then he's serving some form of a punishment. But it's not enough to say that we were following process. So if for 2 years we forgot about the case and we were here, then nothing happens. you know. So I just feel that if a situation comes up, be it of high standing, low standing, non-entity, all of us should have a verdict being issued about around the same time.
No, but the investigations are different. Yeah. You cannot, if somebody goes to steal a coat.
Why should it be different?
It is different because it takes a lot more time. Yes. No, I mean, it takes a lot more time to find out where, because the person's hand may not necessarily be very obvious in the
messages,
thing. So
they had things, they had things
you see, no, I mean, she's a lawyer. Things are not always what they seem. So and the truth don't always, facts don't always make up the truth.
Susan, so, you're not getting my point. What I'm saying, the facts of the matter is that the truth. They were able to, arrest those people at that setting.
The lawyer is arrested. Don't you have murder cases that can go on for years?
That's why so that's what I'm saying. For me, my concern is whether or not due process was followed.
Yes.
But Abna, my question is, my problem is, when we say due processes, how different is someone who is of regular standing involved in this scam? We get evidence immediately to arrest him very immediately.
You don't know anybody of the same.
But immediately the report came out, they had investigation, they had findings that he was involved.
Okay, let me just give an example. For instance, if I task someone to go and steal a goat, the one you catch in the act is likely to be jailed earlier or prosecuted almost immediately. But trying to investigate to find that indeed I was the one that sent, because his signature, they said, well, you have the signatures. You could say that somebody signed the document or whatever. You say you have text messages. You can say that his phone was tapped. There's so many things. Like Susan said, if his hand is not directly in the crime, it will be difficult that more due diligence has to, go into the investigation.
I could understand, but the due diligence, does it have to take 2 years?
It can take more than 2 years.
Which is unfair for the person who, because like you said, the person who you catch doing it, really, maybe he never even had the idea. Just because someone is
unable to even
because you don't know the facts.
We don't know the facts as were presented to the committee or the team that did the investigations. Yeah. But the point is this: that first assumption one is that nobody is above the law. So then we assume that the same standard is applied to all. And that's why I said earlier on that I don't want to believe that his took forever because of his rank or his ranking in the service. I don't want to believe that. But what makes me happy is that at the end of the day, regardless of the time, they concluded. Yeah. They concluded with their investigations, and then they found him. I mean, they found adverse findings against him.
I'm not being circumcised about this particular issue, but I'm just saying it's a trend. It tends to happen often in our society,
give examples.
Which we should move away from.
No, give examples.
I can't give categorical examples because I don't have the facts here with me.
So
but we do know cases. I mean, please.
Okay, so let's
do know cases
give examples.
But I just think moving on, we should come out with some time frames within which these cases are ruled on.
Of course.
You can't put a time frame.
It would be difficult to say you should have it within a certain period, because you would expect that everything that is needed and relevant will be considered. So rushing it, for me, I don't think will be the best thing.
Rushing it is
because you may
issue.
rush a case. You can rush a case and then go and then a guilty person will walk off.
Final say on the issue is not rushing it. Let's do due diligence. But I think I don't have the time.
I can't even make that.
We've had issues even in this election time. We did have cases like this.
IGP Kodalo is going out with the new person coming in. What are your expectations? Perhaps
no scams that have been had.
And quicker investigations.
Better and more effective police units for Ghana. I think, moving forward, that's the most important.
Very well. We need to wrap up on the conversation here. This is it for Spin this morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to Big Bang 1. Just keep watching.
Welcome back, lovely viewers. So on Big Bang 1, we're speaking to Dr. Rashid Rahman, Executive Director for the African Center of Parliamentary Affairs. We're discussing with him the ongoing vetting process, how the committee is doing, and how the designates themselves are also doing. Then we would also ask him of the rating that has come out on how parliamentarians have done over the past 4 years, especially now that their ex gratia is being doled out to them. We want to understand how deserving they are of this money. So stay tuned. Dr. Rashid Draman, hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon and welcome to Captured by Women.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. So we're asking two questions, how the committee who are vetting the ministerial designates are doing and how the nominees themselves are faring, how fit they are for their roles. And we're also going to ask the question on the rating that has come out on how the members of parliament of the Sixth Republic fared. So these are the two questions we have for you, sir.
Yes, I've heard the concerns. I think are legitimate, others are not. But I want to focus on maybe for instance, I think the ministers designate are willing and ready to answer the question. And I hope that going forward, the chair of the committee would just give a little bit more space to the ministers designate to answer the questions that are being posed to them, provided if those questions do not breach procedure.
So, sir, so far, what do you make of the line of questioning from the committee to the designates? Are they out of order or are they appropriate?
Well, maybe not. Out of order might not be the right word to use. Perhaps whether the questions speak to the relevant issues in terms of what the minister designated is going to be or she is approved by Parliament. Most of the questions are really, not targeted enough. And most of the questions have been asked mainly because members just have the opportunity to ask questions and not because those questions are trying to dig deep and probe the competence of the minister designate or otherwise in terms of the portfolio that he or she will be handling. And I think it speaks to the general lack of preparation, I believe, because, for instance, it's not everyone that needs to ask a question. And it's not, everyone that also has to ask 3 questions. We could have situations where maybe if the minister designate is coming from the area of finance or area of energy, the various caucuses could organize themselves and maybe 1 or 2 people ask the questions. That way they can probe deeper and they can maybe ask targeted questions than some of the things that we are hearing. Some even today I was reading in the newspaper and there was a comment about what does somebody's primary education have to do with the role that he or she is going to play in a particular ministry. And I think these are some of the things that were characteristic of the questions that were being asked by honorable members.
Let me ask you, how important are CVs to this vetting process? Because we've seen that the CVs, there have been too many, if for want of a better word, lapses, with nominees' CVs. And it's as if it's a given that they will be approved anyway, so CVs don't matter.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why we need to, as a country, take some of these things serious. The past government was criticized extensively. People were asking the question, are there really people in the Flagstaff House who were vetting some of the CVs before they were sent over? You would think that at least there's a unit that would collect these CVs because I believe the president considers individuals for various portfolios on the basis of what they say they have done in their lives. And it's the CV that is the best indicator of this. Do we have any unit within government that makes sure that these things are formatted properly? Do we have a standard format in which these are presented so that we avoid all these embarrassing lapses?
But, sir, to your question, I think the committee has often commented that they did give nominees a format to follow. However, certain parameters were not clearly stated. So, you know, based on what the person thought the committee wanted, they provided. But I do agree that there have been some lapses which maybe in due time they will correct and resubmit.
Well, I mean, if somebody has presented a CV that is not properly formatted or in the right, way that the committee wanted it, I think the committee should not vet the person. The person should go and do the right thing before he shows up or she shows up before the committee. I think then that way everybody will take the work of the committee serious.
Very well.
Because that is appearing before Parliament. And when you are called by Parliament, it's serious business.
But, sir, to that effect, do you have any fair idea of how long or when the committee gives the nominees the format within which to produce? Because on the first day this vetting was done, I know the nominees apologized when the committee raised these issues because they said they didn't have ample time within which to correct. I just want to know if you have a fair idea of when they received the format.
No, I don't know.
Very well.
But I think it is all supposed to be part of our processes. I mean, this is the governance of our country, and everybody who is involved in this should take it serious. Because, as you rightly said, I think it is because of the fact that most people know whatever I go and do at that committee, eventually my party has the numbers, and I'm going to get a nod. And so, for that matter, people don't really adequately prepare to show up before the committee, and we need to move beyond this.
Very much. Following up on that point, the thing about numbers, I just need to have your opinion on this. Do you think we are getting full value or the full value of what the vetting process is supposed to do or give to the whole process of,
No, we are not. We are not, because, like I was saying, most of the questions are completely off, the issues of relevance. And secondly, you have 25 members sitting in a room, and we can't, agree that the 25 members have knowledge that spans from energy, finance, agriculture, and so on and so forth. Yet you have all the members asking questions to these nominees, when really some of them, I believe, do not have any specialization in that area. And that is why you sometimes see the questions bordering on generalities and not maybe the specifics of the portfolio for which the minister designate, has been nominated by the president.
Great. I have a more substantive question to ask, but I would need to follow up on this one. And perhaps if you could tell us any irrelevant, quote-unquote, irrelevant question you think you have witnessed so far in the process, just for us to know exactly what it is you're talking about.
Well, no, I told you earlier that I read in the Daily Graphic today, the column by Elizabeth Ohini, where she mentioned the fact that people were asked about their primary education. What has that got to do with what they are going to do now? So, that's an example for you. It's the public domain.
Right. And speaking about the generalization or the fact that all 25 members of the committee don't necessarily have the subject area expertise, I would want us to look at that in relation to the nominees themselves. Are you of the opinion, or do you hold that view that people nominated to certain ministerial portfolios or positions should necessarily have subject area expertise, so that, for instance, if you are appointed or nominated for the energy ministry, you should at all costs have some subject area expertise with regards to energy or power, or, if it's agriculture, you should be, for instance, an agriculturist or an agricultural economist, for instance?
Well, maybe in some specific sectors, it might make sense and it might help. But generally, if we have a civil service machinery that is working and that is efficient, I mean, the ministers get briefed all the time and they have technical people who do work for them. So it's not necessary that the person has expertise in that area. But if you do have, I think it helps. It helps in your appreciation of the issues, in your in the way you can understand the issues and so on.
Very well. I would also want to go back to... Okay, yes, prisoner, go ahead.
So you're saying it's more of trying to ascertain the leadership qualities of these ministers, not specifically their expertise in the areas they are being nominated to go and man.
Sorry?
So you're saying the vetting process has got to ascertain the leadership qualities of these the ministerial designates as against their expertise in the specific areas they are being nominated to go and man.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I think I only said the question was whether they should have the
expertise,
specific areas. And I said it doesn't necessarily have to be so, because if we have a civil service machinery that is working effectively, the ministers will get briefed. They have technical people who will be doing work for them. But I also added that if you have knowledge and capacity in the field in which you have.
Sure. So, I mean, in addition to being expertise, we are looking at their leadership abilities as well, if I'm right.
Yes, definitely. The leadership ability is...
Yeah, because on that score... Please go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that wherever you are going to need people. And I think that quality is critical. I mean, that is not something that can be dispensed of. The technical skill can be dispensed of because maybe you have technical people who are going to be working for you and who have been in the ministry over the years.
Right.
But the responsibility for running the institution is not something that you can delegate.
Okay. Right. Doc, a quick one before we go. We do know that our politics is quite adversarial, and some have said it plays out in a number of ways. Have you seen this adversarial nature of our politics playing out in the demeanor of the nominees before the parliament, the vetting committee?
I mean, who specifically are you referring to?
Nobody in particular. I'm just trying to have your take on the issue, because some perhaps have come up as, if you like, a bit haughty, or they perhaps are trying to prove a point. And this is something that is being talked about in various circles. So I just want to see if that sort of demeanor is as a result of that adversarial nature of our politics.
Well, I mean, our politics is as should be expected, adversarial. But you can't deal with that by being arrogant or showing a demeanor that conveys a sense of the fact that you think you know it more than everybody else that is sitting around the table. I mean, so all I would say is that, you know, our politics abhor portrait, and I think whoever the nominee is, he should as well be minded that I think humility pays, and is very important.
Very well.
Okay.
Sir, we would like to know about Odikro release and ratings on the MP's performance in the past parliament. We want to find your view on this. How relevant is this in our current setting, and how do you think the ratings will help MPs to perform?
Well, it's relevant because it's like, as I was telling some of your colleagues today, is somebody has to watch the watchman. And that's what we have in this assessment by Odikro. I mean, they are the guardians of our democracy, ensuring transparency and accountability. You need someone to, once in a while, take stock of how they have performed, particularly because we have given them a mandate and they are paid to do, to execute that mandate. So it is important that we have an assessment in terms of do they really sit in that house and work when they are being paid? Or they go doing something else, and at the end of the month they claim salaries?
Okay, but can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
These are MPs in certain situations. We don't know how they vote. We have the whip system. You know, the party wants it to go on when you are whipped into going into that. Does it really matter how they perform? I mean, because we know for a fact that in certain constituencies, any monkey in a suit will be voted for, you know, depending on the party. So does it really matter?
Well, maybe that's why you have some of the results that you have. And I believe and I hope we'll get to a point someday where people will really be voted to Parliament on the basis of competence, on the basis of what they have to offer to their people, and not because it's Volta region and I'm LDC and I can win, or it's Ashanti region and I'm MPP and I can win, or it's Northern region and I'm NDC, I can win, and so on.
Anyway, we would like to thank you, sir, for joining us in this discussion.
Okay.
We appreciate the time you spent with us. Thank you.
All right. Okay, bye.
Ladies,
Interesting discussions.
we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, please. Welcome back, lovely viewers. So in-house, we'll have our take on the rating that has come on how the MPs have fared, as well as the vetting process ongoing. We'll have our own take in-house. Ladies?
Well, I want to start with the rating of the MPs.
Right.
I mean, first of all, I would want to commend the organizers, or I mean, whoever did that, Odikro, they've done a good job. But I am not so much convinced about how scientific it is, and therefore the conclusions that have been drawn, I really don't know how they arrived at that, because of course I don't have the benefit of all the details of the report. It's over 100 pages, but then I have their fact sheet that, I mean, talks about the findings. And the findings for me, they're looking at, for instance, on legislation. They're saying 52 MPs representing 18.9% of the 275 MPs contributed amendments to a certain number of bills.
Right.
And really, that seems to be the substance of it. My question then is, I mean, when you're looking at contribution to amendments, you don't expect every single member of parliament to
make a contribution.
And then it will be a waste of time if somebody echoes or re-echoes what somebody already has said. So for me, you know, I don't see this as an indicator of how well an MP performs and all of that. Because let's not forget too, there's an MP, the MPs have a fund, a development fund, right, for their constituencies and all. We didn't even interrogate or find out from their constituents what sort of engagement they've had, you know. So I think there are a number of things that I find worrying about this. But again, like I'm saying, kudos to them. They've done a good job. Perhaps it's a good attempt, but let's see how
let me
how
ask you, I mean, what are MPs supposed to do? Are they legislators or their development officers?
They have about 3 roles: legislative functions, deliberative, and of course they have to supervise the executive. So then in ensuring that there are checks and balances.
So really, the fact that they have a fund is not their core function.
But that has been an add-on.
That has been an add-on.
We need not forget that.
Of the misconception of.
But we have institutionalized it. We've given them that fund.
Fine. But I mean, if you were going to give marks for it, it may not necessarily be where people
Susan,
get the
to the
highest marks.
extent that
So
they
I think
make
one of
some
those-
funds
No,
is them,
because
we
you-
need
it
to
can be one
judge
of
them
those
by
that-
how they use it.
Yes,
I think that is
but they themselves have been
important.
complaining about the amount of that fund, that it is barely enough to
But barely enough, but you still have to do
it's
something
anything
with it. So let's see how
substantial.
well you use it.
So that I mean may not necessarily be the biggest thing.
Not
Because
the
I think
biggest,
that
but it's
there-
also a factor.
Yeah, it's an
factor.
yeah, but I mean, if let's say that if you are allocating 10% to it, you still have 90% out there. Somebody may get 10 over 10 there and still perform badly there.
All I'm
and
saying is there are
because
different
of this
facets
whole-
of
you
this
can
that
look
should
at.
have been,
But for
you know,
her,
otherwise
something
it
like
seems,
that is
yes.
important. In
Definitely. I mean,
assessing-
on this whole scoring, what was the expectation of MPs? Who gave them the mandate? The people who voted for the MPs, for what reason did they vote? Do we hear the MPs on the campaign trail? they say certain things, that is what they're going to do, that allows their people to give them the mandate. So you might as well want to check with their people on how they perform. Some of them have been re-elected, mind you. So the promises they go on making does not include that they would be making sure that the right legislation is passed in cabinet or in parliament. I don't hear that. We hear, I'll come and do the road, I'll come and do this, which attests to the fact that, yes, how well did they use the developmental fund? You know, how accountable are they to their people? Their people like them, and as long as they like them, they'll continue to vote for them. So we need to ask our questions, on what basis did we give them the mandate in the first place? We've come out to measure them today, but what was the measuring criteria when we gave them the mandate?
Exactly.
And so we have to defer to the people who voted for them. They voted for them because they like them. And today you are saying they were not speaking in
and
parliament.
perhaps make the people know that they have a certain function to play aside that, which is
definitely.
So it
that
requires
engagement
that
and that conversation, we must have
at that level as well.
Yes.
Because if we go on,
we can't say that we are doing the wrong thing, so it's okay to
No, it's not
continue
okay.
doing the wrong
It's not
thing.
okay, but there must be a KPI for which you are being measured.
Right.
And definitely one of them was not that they will be speaking in parliament. If you heard them on a campaign trail where the people gave them their mandate, what were the things they were saying? So this is when we have to engage the process and say, hey, you need somebody who is going to make laws, pass bills, and etc., etc. So look out for somebody who has the wherewithal. We have people saying, oh, he can't speak English. Well, English na ebedi. They still vote for them anyway. So we have to reorient the people right from the squad, but don't come out with a scorecard when they finish serving. What does that do for anybody?
I mean,
People have been
I was
re-elected.
just going to hinge on Prissy's comment, because to say that the person didn't speak in parliament at all, so I mean he scores 0 when it comes to, or didn't amend the bill and all that, there are people, we should take into consideration people's personalities. Someone may not utter a word, but the work he does in his parliament, I mean his constituency, is very appreciable, and to them they are satisfied with him, and rightly so, they will vote for him the next time. So if you ask me to vote for an MP, not based on what he's going to do to amend a bill, whatever, I know it's part of what they're supposed to do, but for that particular MP, that may not be his primary goal. His goal may be more focused on developing his people or his constituents, you know. So I think all the facets should be put together to make it holistic and comprehensive.
And their role in the various committees as well. I think we didn't give.
But you see,
but in the committee,
you see, but legislation
all of them
is
cannot
also
be
development.
Yes, but Susan,
I mean, I think we want to make it that it's not development.
It's very important.
It's just development.
True.
You understand? I mean, let's take the domestic violence bill, okay? It's legislation, but it is important. It's important to the development of a particular gender. So let's not think that legislation is not development. So I mean, we need to look at it and balance it, and then we need to come to what is the right thing and shape the thinking. And not say that because we've gone the wrong way, we must continue to go the wrong way.
Not at all. But you see, to even touch on the legislation, I think just leaving it at amendments to bills is not enough. You need to look at the quality of the bills or the laws that are actually passed. Because see, we recently had this Presidential Transition Act. I mean, so many provisions in there were inconsistent with the Constitution. You ask yourself, who were sitting in there?
And so you know, those people,
it's not just about the amendments. We don't even know what amendments they proposed and whether or not it was consistent with the Constitution or not. So just leaving it at that face value, for me, I think we should go deeper. And then look at the institution as a whole and how well they have been able to keep the executive in check. I think they have fared badly, honestly. The six parliaments with so many bills or so many agreements and certificates of emergency.
Anyway, ladies, we can keep going on and on about this, but finally we have to bring this show to a wrap. We know you've enjoyed it. First up, we were discussing the retirement of IGP John Kudalo and the appointment of the new IGP COP David Asante Apietu. And also we touched a bit on the COP Timbilla, who has finally been fired concerning the recruitment scam that occurred in 2014. Next up, we talked to Dr. Rashid Draman, who is the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. We touched on the ratings rolled out by Odikro concerning MP's performance in the last Parliament. And then finally, we touched on the vetting committee and its appropriateness and certain things that came up during the vetting. It has been an interesting show. We would like to thank our sponsors for enabling us to carry out this show and bring it to you every Saturday as promised. We do want to say goodbye for now. It's been Nanama, Priscilla, Abena and Susan on this show. Same time next week. See you.